Hello everyone, this is Chris with Peace of Mind Art and Crafts, and today I'm coming to you from my studio, and I'm going to show you how to use embellishments, how to use buttons. I recently received from my neighbor whose mother passed away at 104, and my neighbor gave me her mother's buttons, and she said, could you use some buttons that my mom had? Her mom's name was Agnes, and she also lived there, so I knew Agnes pretty well, and she was a dear, sweet lady. When I agreed to get these buttons, it was like, oh sure, bring them over. Never did I realize that there'd be so many of them, and they're great, they're wonderful. It was so nice of her to give me her mother's button collection. A lot of them are still on cards. This one says 10 cents. Washable. She only used 2 of them. Aren't those great? I mean, I haven't gone through all of them yet. And it'd probably take hours to go through them all and look at them. On the top, on this batch, on the top is pretty much the ones that are still on the cards. And then on the bottom are a lot of single buttons. And they're really unusual. A lot of them. Here's a box that's already been separated into the ivory and color buttons, which is great because I use a lot of that color. Ooh, there's a gold one in there. I mean, just thousands to discover. Here's one of those buttons that they used to use on coats. Remember, I think they're called toggle buttons. If anyone knows, let me know. Those are cool. I'm sure this was probably on a coat or a jacket. I'm going to set these down. Hope I don't drop them. Okay, and then here is another one. This is a beautiful tin, isn't it? It was great to get this tin also, just for the tin. And here she has, or someone else has, I don't know, made into a string of all the different ivory buttons. And then this box is just chock full also of all kinds of pretty buttons. Oh, look at this one has a train on it. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, what that's on. Oh, the back of it is a clip. I suppose I could use that as a charm. The reason I like buttons is they really add to a lot of the work that I do, and I'll show you some of the examples of things that I've made with buttons, and then we'll make 1 or 2 things together here today. I'm going to also set these down. Okay. So this is called Agnes's Buttons. I'm going to show you one of my slow stitches that I recently completed. This will be probably the cover to a journal. It could be folded over and made into a cover. But I've used a couple of buttons on this. This pretty gold button that has like a family crest thing on it, and then I used a couple of buttons up here in the corner. And I use buttons a lot on my slow stitch work. As a matter of fact, I had, before Agnes gave me all of her buttons, I had quite a bit on my own, and of course, whenever I see them on sale at Hobby Lobby or whatever, I buy some. Okay, so that's one of the items. Some more slow stitch. These are my slow stitch hearts, which don't have buttons on them yet, but I plan on, oh, here's one that does have a button on it, and it really adds to it, don't you think? Here's one right here, a button. Just a little tiny one. my slow stitch hearts, I'm going to, these are pretty much completed except for, you know, here's another one with a button. Except for maybe adding a few more buttons. You can use these as to hang on the wall or your bulletin board or whatever, or you can fold this under and maybe tape it or glue it down and use it as a pocket on a journal, in a journal. Okay, so those are the slow stitch. Okay, and those of you that don't do slow stitch, you can also use them on different embellishments. Here I have some from when I was doing the log cabin. I did these little log cabin quilt squares, and then I cut out flowers out of fabric and glued them down, and then I added sewed buttons. I do notice that this one, the button, or I think it was a charm or something, has come off. So I wanted to add a button to that. We find a tiny one. I will look in this little kit. That one's good. See, you can go on and on and on and not make up your mind. They're pretty much all the same, so I'm going to stick with that one. So you can either just glue these right on, or you can sew them. In this case, since this has already been sewed on the back, I'm just going to go ahead and glue this one down. You can, if you want to make it look more realistic, you can sew right into the button. I'll show you that technique and give it the look of a sewn button. I'm going to leave a little bit on there to cut off when I'm done. So just go in and out a few times like you would on a regular button if you were sewing it down to something. So you give the look of thread in there. Go. And then I'm going to turn it to the back, and I'm going to, this is a little fiddly, so you might not be able to see all of this, but I'm going to tie it in the back of the button, so then I can glue it down. This is very fiddly. This way, maybe. Okay, well, that's not going to work. On camera, of course, you always get... So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to clip it off. I'm going to put... Let me put my needle away so I don't lose it. And I'll put a little bit of fabric tack down. And glue the button on there. There we go. Center it on the flower. Okay. Okay, so this is just a little quilting square with flowers on it, applique flowers that were actually glued down instead of sewed down. You could sew them also. And then I went around with a tiny black pen and made little stitch marks on there. This would make a really good embellishment on the side of a page, or you could glue it down on a few sides and use it as a tuck spot. Okay, so we have those two finished. Next up, I want to show you some flowers that I created out of fabric and using buttons as the center. This one was one that had a rose button, and what I did was I cut off the back. I sewed this together. I cut out layers of fabric. This fabric I stiffened a little bit with some Mod Podge and let it dry so that it can be slightly formed, so the petals look a little bit three-dimensional. And then I put a piece of felt and stitched on a pin back to make it into a pin. Okay, and this one, I need a button on this one. So I'm going to glue this one down. I could sew it. If I was still in the process, I could sew it. Actually, I think I might do that because I can do it from the back. And kind of hide the knot in the back of the button. Oops. Always remember to tie knot in the end of your thread. I'm using double thread today. Now these that I'm showing you right now are made as pins. However, you can also just make them without the pin back. And I'll show you how to do that in a bit here. Without the pin back, then you can use them on the sides of your pages as embellishments. And while I'm working here with this, I'll show you what I mean. I have some that I made right here. Here's the other one. Thought I had another one. Oh, here it is. Here's another one that I made. And I'll show you how to make these in a couple minutes here. Okay. Okay, put a brown button into this little sunflower. Get it out a couple times. Now remember, you do not have to sew your buttons on. You can just glue them on. And a lot of times I do that. It depends on what I'm making. I just kind of like the look of that the button's been sewn on. Okay, so that one, like I said, it's got several layers on there. This one I cut out a couple of leaf shapes and put it in between the layers. Okay, I'm going to end this off. Okay, put a knot in it now, so it's ready for the next time. Okay, so there you have another one of the little flower pins. Okay, this flower pin I didn't like the fabric that I had in the middle, so I took that off. I found these in Agnes's buttons, and they're ones with texture on them. I thought they were really cool, but Agnes maybe had sewn them together into a group. So I'm going to have to cut them apart to use the one I want, which is fine. Make sure I put these back in the box before I lose them. I thought that was a really cool one. So that's the one I'm going to sew onto there. I won't bother to sew it now, but isn't that pretty? It's a textured, kind of an ivory textured button. Okay, I'm show you how to make these real quick here. What I did was I cut out varying sizes of fabric. Let me show you on this one. I kind of think I want one that has golds. So what I do is I basically cut a circle. Now if you want to, let me get my fabric scissors. Those paper scissors aren't going to do it. And you can actually do a circle that has, you know, kind of a scalloped edge. You can use pinking shears if you like. Cut out a circle, and then this one is going to be my back. Well, let me see here. I think I might want this one to be the back. So let's put that on. You just need a little bit of it peeking out from the back. And it doesn't have to be, as you can see, it doesn't have to be even or anything like that. Here's another one. Maybe I'll make this one. Actually, I liked this one for the center. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. Let me see if I can. Get most of it in there. This one isn't going to exactly be round, but that's okay. It can be a little bit different. Okay. And I'm going to need something for the center of that, but I think I'm going to use a button. So let me find a button that'll go with that. Also, you can use lace if you want. Let me see if I can find a piece of lace to put. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'll use this little bit of tulle here in the middle. Yeah, I think I'll use that little piece of tulle there in the middle. I'm just gonna use a little pin to hold this down a minute. And let's see, a button. Oh my goodness. Certainly got enough to choose from, don't I? And I kind of want a biggish one to put over the side there. That'll do. Now, as far as using buttons that have a shank on them, a lot of times, and the shank means it has like a little loop on the back of the button you sew it on. I generally don't use those types for a journal. If I did want to use one, what I would do probably would be to to take a scissors, an old scissors, this type, and if it was plastic, I could just clip it right off the back of the button so that it would lie flatter when I glued it down to the base. Okay, and I'm just gonna back and forth with this. Sew the button on. Go through it at least twice. Okay, now if I wanted to make, in order to make this just a little bit ruffly, more ruffly looking, what I'm going to do is just kind of basically slow stitch or take a big, like a ruffling stitch around towards the inside. Of the piece. Doesn't have to be super straight or anything like that. And depending on how thick the fabric is, you can go through once, twice, 3 times around. Now this will show on the black part, but that's okay. I like the stitches showing. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger right there in the middle and kind of pull it up a little bit around there. Go up as I go and kind of pull the ruffles out. Okay, you don't want to get it. You don't want it to get too ruffly. So you might want to, and you can spread them out a little bit better after you get it tied off. So I would go to the back and tie it off a bit in the back. And kind of fluff it up a little bit and kind of space out those little ruffles so that your flower looks like that. I can trim this just a bit, this black. There we go. Okay, the next thing you would do is you could put, I've cut these little circles out of my paper punch, and then you could glue those on the back. I probably would need a bigger one for this flower, so that you could cover over your stitching. Okay, I want to thank you for joining me today. I do want to show you real quick okay, as I was saying, I wanted to show you the project that we did last time. I wanted to show you how it turned out and how I added some charms on it, and I could also add some buttons, which I might do here. I've got it wrapped around one of my cardboard that I made out of, it's a cardboard spool that I made out of the ends that go on, that come on ribbon. And you can use an old ribbon spool, but usually they're too narrow and you can't get much wrapped around them. So, and I have a video that I will link you to that shows you how to make those. Anyway, here's what we made the last time we made our fabric snippet strip. And we'll go through this and I'll show you what I've added. What I did was after I finished gluing down the pieces that I wanted, then I sewed it down three times. I started in the center, then I sewed over on the side, and it doesn't have to be straight. You can kind of meander a little bit. And then I added, after I sewed it, then I added some, you can probably see better on the back how it's sewn down there. I added some trinkets and bling and charms, and maybe I'll add a few buttons, little ribbon, a charm. Now this I can either use as down a page, or I can cut it up and use it in separate pieces as pockets or tug spots. Okay, little key, charm. Okay, let's see if we can add maybe a couple of buttons. I can either sew them on, or I can glue them. In this case, I think I'll glue them. Let me get Agnes's big old box out. See what I got. Maybe kind of like this yellow one. Like that. Put it in frame. You guys can see it also. And wipe it up. Yeah, it was really wonderful having Agnes as a neighbor. I don't think I've ever known anyone, I've known of people, but I don't think I've never known anyone that has lived that long. And actually, she did not pass away of COVID. She just died of natural causes. But it was kind of sad because they couldn't have a service for her. So we'll have one later on to celebrate her life. She was sure a feisty old lady. She is great. Okay, now here is one that already has thread in it. And if you can find those are fun. Those are fun to use too. I think I'll use that one down there. They used to, of course, and to save the buttons from old clothes and reuse them. So they cut them off, and the thread would still be on them. When they cut them off on a shirt or a blouse that no longer could be used. Okay, let's see, maybe one more somewhere. See, this is what I mean by a shank. This was a button that was covered with fabric. That lime green. That was probably out of the 60s or 70s. I like that one. Let's use that one. Ooh. There we go. Okay, thank you for joining me today with my fun with buttons. And we'll get together again next time. As I said, I I announced in my last video who won the contest. So if you don't know about it yet, then watch the video before this one, because I announced who won that one. So thanks for joining me. I wish you peace of mind. Bye now.